Nigeria faces challenges in its global image due to security concerns, corruption, brain drain, and a plethora of other issues. Now, the country's leadership and policies have also significantly impacted how it's perceived globally. It's believed that addressing corruption and improving transparency in governance can enhance the country's global image amongst other very urgent, I call it policy reforms. Well, joining me right now to discuss this is Olumide Ekenade. He is a professor, Department of History and International Studies from Redeemers University of Osun State. He joins virtually. I also have Akpobi Elvis. He's the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, joins virtually from Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, let me start with you, Professor Ekanade. Nigeria's, will I call it, image right now, a lot. I mean, this is not news. Many Nigerians, or some Nigerians, will tell you that the kind of reception they get when they leave the shores of the country, is really not up to par. But just recently also, we are getting feelers that some countries are beginning to adjust what I call it their travel policy, particularly for Nigerians to them. The UAE, for instance, did some adjustment with its visa transit policy as regards Nigerians. Also, Canada, increasing its proof of funds, and the US also. I mean, what does this reflect of us as a nation and our global stand?
Really, the global perception seems not to be too favorable, just like you stated. And I think, again, to an appreciable extent, the idea that Nigerians are perhaps not too morally good seems to be a misperception. And yes, there is no doubt that we have quite a number of, or rather, some Nigerians who perhaps in a way has tarnished the image of the country out there. But beyond that, we have Nigerians who are doing pretty well in their different spheres of influence. And I think we need to, there ought to be some reorientation in terms of global perception concerning the Nigerian people.
All right, let me leave you for a moment, Professor, and let me come to Elvis Akpobi. Elvis, you are the Executive Director of Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. I'd like to address or put my question to you from an angle of the young persons or the young age bracket, which unfortunately seem to fall within the category of some of these, will I call it, issues. For instance, the issue of brain drain, the jackpot syndrome, and then the issue of cybercrime and cultism, right? We see videos, viral videos of some Nigerians, engage in cultist activity, across the shores. Let me stop at that for now. What is missing here? Why is it that we see a good amount of young Nigerians, within this space?
Okay, so I'm of this school of thought that what society celebrates, what any particular society celebrates, will always multiply. There were times when we were growing up, I had parents who taught me to, grow through the process. There were times when we were growing up, if you're not sure of the source of wealth of a particular young person, you avoid that person. But lately, you find out that people, it seems as if cutting corners is a new culture. Subscribing to negativity, it's being celebrated. People don't want to ask how people, make their money. People don't even want to. Let me go to the leadership space. You're a good leader, it's who is strong, who gives and all that. Fine, it's good to have empathy, but let's not forget too that our society today, Nigeria today, there's very little to be inspired by. We've seen cases where a lot of young Nigerians seem very, very helpless and hopeless. And when these persons are hopeless, they'll seek solace in other countries. I'm a very frequent traveler, and to hold the Nigerian passports at the point of entering most countries is like wearing a burden of suspect. I'm not a criminal. I've never been one. I don't intend being one. I'm a proud Nigerian, and even in my next life, I want to be a Nigerian. I didn't cause whatever negativity the Western world is saying, but the leaders, the policy makers, because we need to be accountable. The things coming out from our leadership space, they are not inspiring. Not to talk about even what the young people that are in the diasporas, what they are doing in the diaspora, what they are doing today, one way or the other has a very, very negative ripple effect on how Nigeria is being seen. I made a research and I was meant to understand that we are now rated, the Nigerian passport is now rated with Iraq, Iran, Libya, and we are the least rated. Iran, Libya, and Nigeria. Like we only have about 25 countries visa on arrival. And like the prof said, we can't continue talking about it when we already hold on to talk about the root cause. Until we grow our economy, until young Nigerians see hope in their habitat in Nigeria, that they can make it here in Nigeria, they can thrive here in Nigeria, until our economy skyrockets, that the dollar exchange rate is not as wide as as very, very wide. I think we'll continue having that, because at the moment, if you engage any young person, they'll tell you they want to escape the country, not because they know what they want to go and do there, but they just want to leave the bleakness, the helplessness, and hopelessness. So I think it's we're sitting on the keg of gunpowder, and it's time critical stakeholders sit down and solve this problem.
All right, let me come back to you, Professor Kennedy. You said that one of the reasons for this perception, aside the problems that are prevalent, the good sides seem to not be told. The stories about Nigerians who are doing exploits, some of the, what I call it, achievements of not just young Nigerians, even Nigerians across, it's not being told out there. And it seems like it's only the bad narrative that seems to be, outside. But some Nigerians will tell you that, look, you cannot shy away from reality, right? So I would like you to speak more on that. In terms of the narrative being put out, even by Nigerians themselves, how do you think this in any way is helping matters? And how do you think, if not, how do you think this can be improved? Professor, if you can hear me, I think you're muted.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. I think, well, yes, you have put it rightly, but you see, there's a need for us to begin to also look at this issue from other perspectives. In as much as you have some Nigerians who are not doing well out, or rather, who seem to be tarnishing the image of the country out there, there are good Nigerians, even in diaspora, that are doing exceedingly great jobs. And for me, personally, I think it's high time we began to also, as it were, highlight the good side of the Nigerian story. Now, again, it seems that there seems to be some form of institutionalized racism out there. That's why we see the issue of anti-immigration rearing its head, not only in North America, but also in Europe. I tell you, for one, Nigeria, as we speak, in terms of Nigeria is playing a critical role in terms of cultural practice. I mean, look at our music, for one. Again, look at our tech industry. These are areas where the Nigerian state is really making waves. And if only we will only sit back and then begin to also re-engage with the global community from this perspective, I think the story will change in no long time. Same for our movie industry. We are ruling the waves. And if the West, or rather United States, seem to be closing their doors, Nigeria recently, we should join BRICS pretty soon. And I know that one of the reasons why we are beginning to have some of these negative vibes from countries like the United States is because, again, Nigeria seems to be the largest economy in Africa, one of the largest economy, and is also about joining BRICS. So Trump, for one, is not pretty much comfortable, I believe, with this idea. And if, as Nigerians, especially the youth, the youth are those that oftentimes are those that are essentially wanting to leave the country. But now, if other countries are opening up to Nigeria, then we really do not, the American market may not really too significant for the Nigerian state. And when we talk about manufacturing, most of our manufactured goods that we get, they come from countries like especially China.
All right.
And so I really don't see what we stand to lose with the policy of United States concerning the recent visa restrictions.
Okay, just before we go on this break, I'm still going to ask you as a follow-up question. Some Nigerians are of the opinion that with policies like this, the best approach should also be maybe an equal diplomatic response. So where you say, oh, Nigerians are limited from coming into a certain country, maybe placing visa ban and all of that, maybe it's Nigeria too should do the same, for nationals within that country. So, I mean, looking at what we are seeing right now, do you think a diplomatic approach is the right solution to this? And equal, let me use that.
I think we can. Okay, yes. I recall some years back when President Yaradua was in power, Nigeria practiced what you call citizen-centered diplomacy. You recall the incident between Nigeria and South Africa? If Nigeria can also take a reciprocal stand in this matter as regards what the United States has done, then I think we will then come back to the negotiating table and then begin to look at matters from another perspective. You recall again that, in fact, as we speak, United States, they need part of the rare earth minerals that we have in the Nigerian state. Lithium, for one, has been discovered in Nigeria. And a while ago, Elon Musk was trying to engage with one of the ministries to see how we could come around this matter. But the minister said, no, come cite your industry in Nigeria, and then we can begin to speak from that particular platform. So I think that it's high time we stopped looking at United States as the country that has it all. We have enormous resource in this country, but again, leadership seems to be a challenge for us. If we can also get the leadership right, then there's a political will on the part of the actual leadership to help out in this matter, then I think we can engage the West even on the same footing. So for me, I think reciprocity is the name of the game here.
Reciprocity. I think I'd also like to know if Elvis, stands on that point. But let's go on a quick break. We'll take your response on that. Once we return, stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television, and we, of course, are still speaking on Nigeria's perception globally. I have Olumide Ekanade. He is a professor at the Department of History and International Studies with Redeemers University, Osun State. I also have Elvis Okpobi, the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Both men are joining virtually from Abuja. Thank you for your time once again. Elvis, I'm going to come to you straight. Just like what Professor did say, he said reciprocity should be the game now. Do you think that Nigeria should reciprocate in the same light to some of these countries that have decided to, in a way, shut their doors to us?
For me, I think we should start seeing value in ourselves. We should grow our economy. Nigeria is blessed. Aside the natural resources, I don't believe our the most important natural resources we are blessed with is buried underground. I believe it's the potentials of the young people whose potentials are waiting to be harnessed. I think we should start looking inward, growing our economy, and when we do all that, we cannot be on that table where we reciprocate whatever we need to do with the Western world. Because at the moment, it seems like we have this begging bowl. Our begging bowl is leaking. We seek validation from the Western world. We seek whatever they do, it affects us. The other time, the US president made the policies to stop, what's it called, USID and all that, to ratify the USID program. And it affected a lot of programs in Nigeria. So for me, it's a wake-up call for we as Nigerians, both policymakers, leaders, that Nigeria is blessed. It's time we look inward, so at least we can compete with the Western world. Like the professor Patutomi said, he said there were times when he was in the 70s, he can go to Heathrow, he just gets to reach Heathrow Airport, visa on arrival. What happens? How come people that were privileged to enjoy such policies who don't, keep up with it? And today it seems as if that we are at the mercy of even South Africa here. Assessing South Africa, an African country, is a problem. So for me, we should look inward. Our leaders should sit down and make policies, because should we continue like this, I'm not sure we might just go into extinction. I'm not looking that to happen in my time, because I don't know what I was.
I'm still with you, Elvis. You talk about the leaders too. Nigerians themselves, do you think they have a role to play in this? Because many of the advices that we see sometimes, or that is being reported, are committed by Nigerians. Cultism, cybercrime, some of these things, you see it and you see fellow Nigerians there. And then you wonder, do these people not watch the news? Are they not concerned about their country's public image? Where is patriotism in all of this?
Yes, patriotism diminishes when the value of leadership diminishes. I don't want to go towards the electionary process where people don't have confidence in the electoral umpire. But the thing is, those that we look up to, who were once citizens, I think they should start emitting rays that are inspiring to other people. Let's not to forget too that we have a lot of young Nigerians that have put us in a very negative light in diaspora. But the thing is, what society celebrates, we always multiply. How is our system celebrating those with flying colors in the academic sector? Our system are celebrating those who you see, I don't want to really go deep, or you see this talk show where people express nudity. You see, lately we will have internet fraudsters, known internet fraudsters that have found their way into leadership. You can imagine when allegedly we have some leaders today that can't go to some countries. They have cases to answer in those countries. So when those persons stumble into leadership, how do you expect a particular country that knows that this particular person has issues with our country and is leading one way or the other in a particular space, how do you expect them to have value for our Nigerian passport? So we need to sit back, enact policies that will grow our economy and bring value to us as Nigeria, because it's very, very painful. I want to be very, very proud, and I'm still proud when I go outside, when I travel, I'm like, where are you from? I'm in Nigeria, and nobody will look me with that suspicious eye, like I always see each time. Most times I, say I'm in Nigeria, but this is not to say Nigerians are not doing well. The Western world is growing on the potentials of the young Nigeria. I have a friend who just innovated a particular app that is being used in the USA. He's a Nigerian. We were seatmates in secondary school. So it's time we started amplifying people like that, so that our youth, even here in diaspora, will tilt towards that path and not amplifying negativity or celebrating negativity. That's what I think.
All right. Just before I also let you go, Professor Ken Nade, I would like you to speak on the role of Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Ministry. For many Nigerians, do you think that our Foreign Affairs Ministry is really holding its own when it comes to being timely to some of responding to some of issues like this, and being, that ministry that really looks out for Nigerians in the diaspora. How would you rate the performance of our Foreign Affairs Ministry so far? 30 seconds, sir. I think we have a bit of connectivity issues there with Professor. Elvis, if you got my question, so far, would you say that our Foreign Affairs, what I call it, ministry right now is on top of its game? How would you rate its performance over the years?
I think they've underperformed, but there's need to do more and be more. And another thing I want to reiterate and amplify again is the National Orientation Agency need to keep up its game, because what people listen often they become. It's time we started amplifying, doing adverts on the need to be patriotic citizens, for every citizen to know that wherever you find yourself, you are not just you are an ambassador of Nigeria, and your actions and inactions will determine how people see Nigerians. It's time the National Orientation Agency look into issues like that, so that wherever we find ourselves, we know that whatever we are doing becomes a reflection of how people see Nigeria as a country.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time on the program. It's been a pleasure having you. Professor Olumide Ekenade is a professor, Department of History and International Studies at Redeemers University. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Elvis Ekpobi, is the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.